Hard magic systems can be pretty fun to create, and a few years ago I started creating a system inspired by the stereotypical witches with their big cauldrons, and then it somehow morphed into a magical form of 3D printing. On an imaginary planet, up in the stratosphere, sits a magical gas called rohelin. There's a way to cool it down to the ground and make it materialize as a solid. You just need a pot of water and a few basic ingredients: thyme, kelp, potash, salt, and charcoal. Thyme describes length and potash describes height. So if you need to make a flat, translucent rectangle, then you should add some potash to your pot, wait a requisite amount of time, and then put a piece of paper in the pot and let it soak. Then you should dry that piece of paper and rip it in half. Your rectangle will materialize in the air right next to you, and since you used only thyme and potash, the thickness of your solid rohelin object will be set to default, which is around 2 millimeters. To specify the thickness of the desired object, you need kelp. So if you add the right amount of potash and the right amount of kelp to your pot of water, and then wait the right amount of time, you can make a translucent cube. And if you add some salt to the pot to describe the desired density, you can make your cube more opaque. And the more salt you add, the more opaque it will become, and with enough salt, it will also start to glow. You can use a glowing rohelin cube like a lamp, and put it in a box when you don't need any artificial light, or you can mount a glowing panel of rohelin on a wall, like a window, and cover it up with shutters when you don't need it. The last basic ingredient is charcoal, and it's used to add a new line. So you can describe a translucent rectangle with potash and thyme, then add a piece of charcoal, and describe a glowing rectangle. Once you dry and rip your piece of paper, you'll get an object that has a translucent half and a glowing half. Those two halves could also be of different length and height, and different thickness. You could describe a triangle by adding many bits of charcoal, or a half circle, or a letter of the alphabet. With more ingredients, you can describe even more complex shapes, but everything will always be stepped on the diagonal. And rohelin objects are very hard, which makes them useful, but they are also brittle, so when they cannot resist a force, they shatter into pieces. A shattered rohelin object dissolves into the air quite quickly, and the gaseous rohelin rises up into its usual place in the atmosphere. And even those rohelin objects that don't have any cracks at all are always slowly dissolving, so after a number of years, your cubical rohelin lamp will start to look like a block of Swiss cheese, and eventually dissolve into nothing. So as an inhabitant of this world, you will see squares as a symbol of freshness and newness, and circles as a symbol of death and decay. Finally, in addition to describing the shape, you can also describe the behavior of your object. If you add an angel's bonnet mushroom to your mix, you can make a floating shape, which you can use to make a land canoe or a magical pack animal.